Hi, everyone. It's Ricardo. It is a new year, and guess what? We've got an exciting new opportunity for the Popping Collars universe. Have you ever listened to us and thought, I could do that? These guys don't even know what they're talking about. Have you ever had an idea for a podcast, but you just didn't know how to get it off the ground? Or have you started working on a podcast just to find that your only audience is your mom and your dog? Well, starting this year, we are beginning a special offering called Popping Collars Plus. Here's how it works. If you've got a podcast that's somewhere in the neighborhood of religion and popular culture, send us your recording, and we will possibly host it on our feed, the longest-running Episcopal feed of all time, with thousands of downloads per month. It's an opportunity to get your voice to a wide audience and get that potential booster shot of listeners that you've always wanted. And we get the benefit of hearing from more diverse voices from around the religious world, so it's a win-win. So if you want to take advantage of Popping Collars Plus, just send an email and MP3 submission to poppingcollarspodcast@gmail.com, and we will review your offering and possibly put you on the feed. We're looking forward to hearing from all you creative souls, so keep those microphones humming and keep those collars popped.
Just tell them to bring us a bottle of rum.
Hi, I'm Greg.
And I'm Ricardo.
And this is Going on 30, a Popping Collars side project where we know all there is to know.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. About movies that were nominated or should have been nominated for Best Picture 30 years ago. This month, we're looking at The Crying Game.
Yeah.
Oh.
Take out my wallet. I want you to do something for me.
I want you to find her out. Tell her I was thinking of her.
Listen, there's something I should tell you.
Shouldn't I go?
Yes.
Vincent Canby of the New York Times calls The Crying Game ingenious and exceptionally well acted.
You vanished quite effectively.
You know her, Jimmy.
Jimmy, is it?
Leave her out of this.
Are you going to tell me what's wrong?
No, not here.
Johnny! It's funny the way things go. Never the way you expected.
New segment for the show, Ricardo.
Yes.
I've started thinking I'm going to ask my 10-year-old what she thinks this movie is about based on the title. So I asked my 10-year-old, what do you think the movie The Crying Game is about? And she said, crying is not a game.
Ooh. That's kind of profound, actually. Wow.
So
that would fit in the movie.
Yeah, there you go. I have a brief description of this movie. Would you like to hear it?
I sure would.
Actually, it's not brief at all. It's very long.
Let's hear. There's a lot to say.
So it goes like this. Irish Republican Army member Fergus forms an unexpected bond with Jody, a kidnapped British soldier in his custody. Despite the warnings of fellow IRA members Jude and Maguire, Jody makes Fergus promise he'll visit his girlfriend Dill in London. And when Fergus flees to the city, he seeks her out. Hounded by his former IRA colleagues, he finds himself increasingly drawn to the enigmatic and surprising Dill. Wow, no spoilers in that description.
No. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to have spoilers.
We'll have spoilers. This is a spoiler. We have assumed that you have watched the movie in order to have our conversation. So if you haven't watched The Crying Game, go watch The Crying Game.
I would say definitely don't even listen to this if you haven't watched The Crying Game, because it'll be spoiled for you forever.
That's right. That's right. I have to say, just in reading this description right now,
Mhm.
This is the first time that I actually know these characters' names. Like like the whole time I was watching the movie, either I couldn't understand what they were saying, or I just didn't know what their names were. So Fergus, okay, I didn't know that's what. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Ricardo, what is your history with the movie The Crying Game?
Well, Greg, it came out in 1992 or 93.
Yeah, so let's see. We are talking about the movies that were nominated for Oscars in 1993. So this movie was from 1992. Yeah.
All right. So it came out in 1992, and it was one of those word of mouth hits from what I recall. 1992, I was still living in Madison, Wisconsin, but on my way to San Francisco in December of 93. So I'm going to guess I saw it when I was still in Wisconsin and living in a college town, Madison. And so it was a real, it was one of those indie hits that people just talked about, and you've got to see it. So I saw it. I loved it. It definitely has a sort of queer theme going on in it. And so I had that interest. And I think I saw it again a few years later, and I just saw it, finished watching it for the third time about 30 minutes ago. And as far as I'm concerned, it holds up. And I think it's even better because I've kind of matured.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of themes in the movie that I will talk about later. So that's my history.
I remember this as a kid. So this is one of those things Betsy and I talk about a lot on this show, where a movie is just so ingrained in the pop culture that you feel like you know a lot about the movie even when you haven't seen it. And The Crying Game, you're so right. The Crying Game was just huge. I mean, there was the Boy George song that was all over the place, like on the radio. And then the movie itself was sort of kind of notorious, I guess, in 1992. Like there was this big secret about the movie. And yeah, there was like all of this. There was a lot of talk about the movie, talk on the streets about the movie.
Right.
I was 12, but I could hear the street talk about the movie.
Whispering.
So I guess the reputation of the movie is what I kind of knew for a long time, but I never actually saw the movie until a month ago. So my whole history with this movie is just all based on reputation.
So in 1992, I was 25, 26. Am I that much older than you?
So, okay. So I was lying when I said I was 12. How old would I have been next to? 15? 15.
You were 15 in 92. So now you're 45.
Oh my gosh, Ricardo, we don't talk about these things on the
You can edit that out. We don't talk about our age on the show. I was 26 when the movie came out, and I just started coming out at age 21. And so it was still a new thing, and I was still coming out to people. And because this movie has that kind of, I'm just going to use the word queer, angle to it, it kind of floored me at that level. I remember that back then because I didn't know what the surprise was going to be.
So let's move on to hot takes about the movie, The Crying Game. General thoughts about the movie, or what kind of comes to mind when you think about the movie, The Crying Game?
So the actor Stephen Ray looks way cuter with a short haircut than a long haircut.
Yeah. What? What's the movie? There's a Sarah Polley movie that he was in. I want to say like in the late 90s, which was the first time that I remember seeing him. Maybe Guinevere. I think that may be what it's called.
Maybe.
But yeah, he looked significantly older. Like over the course of 7 years, however long it took to get from 1992 to 1999, it looked like he aged a lot. Like I watched this movie and I was like, wow, he looks really young and really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stephen Ray actually, I think, probably was older than you think, because towards the end of the movie, even when he's got his short hair and looks really cute, he's got like bags under his eyes, and like I do, and a wrinkle between his eyebrows, and kind of there's a little bit of aging on him. The movie aged him, but I was surprised. I would have guessed that in that movie he was probably 34 years old.
I mean, that's not old. Forrest Whitaker looks young in this movie too. Everybody kind of looks young.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Hey Siri, how old was Stephen Ray in the movie The Crying Game? He was born in 1946, 56. What?
Wait.
16.
So that means 96, he was 50.
He was 46.
46.
He was your age, old man.
Oh, young Stephen Ray. Oh,
All right.
join us over here in the young pool, Stephen Ray, with your 46-year-old self. Oh, so good.
That's right. So Stephen Ray was 46 when the Crying Game came out. So it's probably 44 when they made it, let's say. But the point is, so here's a hot take. The hot take is he looks way better with short hair than with long hair at the beginning of the movie. But I think the hair stuff is an actual it's a what do you call it? A trope, a metaphor in the whole movie, because there are 3 hair changes. So yeah, Stephen Ray has like the scraggly hair when he's the IRA guy at the beginning, but then when he's in hiding, because he goes in hiding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cuts his hair, he looks kind of dapper. He wears like blazers and khaki pants, so he's more conservative looking. Jay Davidson as Dill is flashy, like frizzy hair and tight skirts and dresses.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end gets her hair cut so she looks like a boy and wears like a polo cricket sweater to disguise her as well. But Miranda Richardson's hair changes too. She goes from blonde to brunette. She goes from like blonde kind of gal with sweaters on and stuff to this like suit wearing dark haired kind of Natasha from Morrison
yeah, that's
Natasha.
right. My hot take is this: the big reveal, which spoilers if you haven't seen The Crying Game, the big reveal is that Dill presents as a woman but has male genitals, right? Is that a way to say that?
Is biologically male, doesn't have breasts or anything either.
Correct. Yes. So the big reveal comes that Fergus sort of assumes that Dill is a woman. Okay, how am I saying this, Ricardo?
And no matter how you say it, it's going to be incorrect.
I think so. So the reveal is that at some point there's a penis where you're not expecting there to be a penis in the movie.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
So I think what was shocking to me is that happened earlier in the movie than I thought. I thought that was like a climax of the movie. And so I was like, okay, I know that this happens. I know to expect this in the movie. And then it happens before I expected it to.
Right. Did you know that it was going to happen? You haven't seen it in all these years. Did you know the secret?
I did know it was going to happen because of the pop culture like shadow that this thing has. So like I said, like I knew that this was going to happen because this is like the Crying Game, and that we'll get into a little bit later, is kind of shorthand. The Crying Game gets referenced in other movies, right? Whenever there's like a gender reveal or something in a movie, like the Boy George song will play or something like that. I think that happens in Ace Ventura, actually.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so it's like, so I knew, again, it's one of those, the movie from reputation, but like I had never seen the movie, so I didn't know what the order of events were. And so when the movie starts with like an IRA kidnapping, I gotta be honest, I had no idea what was happening. I was totally lost for about the first 45 minutes of the movie.
Wow.
I know. I felt really dumb.
Well, no, because I mean, it's 3 movies, and this whole it's like a political thriller for about 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good chunk of what I was surprised at is that part of the movie is actually a lot more. It's a bigger slice of the pie of the movie running time than I thought.
Yes, absolutely. Like if you were to ask me what this movie was before I watched it, I would have said, oh, that's sort of a pioneering indie queer film about a man who falls in love with what he thinks is a woman, but turns out not to be a woman, turns out to be, or something like that. Okay, I'm going to butcher this. I apologize for everything I say in advance. I'm so sorry. That's what I would have told you that the movie was about. And then after watching the movie, I would tell you that the movie is about an IRA member trying to escape his past that falls in love with his captive's girlfriend. Like that's
Right.
what the movie is. But
Right.
but like you would never know that, just based on the discourse around the movie, I guess.
I sort of want to say one of the reasons it's not more beloved than it is that people just get snagged on the whole, oh, wow, she
Right.
has a penis.
Right.
And then that's how far they go. When I think the movie is profound on various levels and has a lot to say about religion, society, sexuality, love, identity, especially.
Yeah.
And not that that's what Neil Jordan, the director, intended, maybe, but I find it pretty profound.
This is a really like transgressive movie in the way that it makes people confront ideas and images and art that maybe they wouldn't have thought about before.
I think the word transgressive is a great word to describe. Is that what you said? Yeah, transgressive.
Yeah.
To describe the movie, because I think it does more than kind of tweak sexual identity. I mean, think the people viewing the movie might have already known that some surprise was going to be in the movie, but don't tell. But they don't realize that they think they've been seeing this heterosexual romance budding as a result of him feeling responsible for the death of her boyfriend. But then it's suddenly two guys. And
Right.
would think if you were like a straight guy on a date with your girlfriend to see The Crying Game that's got like a chick with dark hair and a smoking gun on the cover on the poster, you're gonna be like, this is gonna be like a sex movie or something.
Right.
And then it's IRA and you get confused, and then it's a guy, and then you're squirming, And I think you talk about backlash. I don't remember about backlash, but I would imagine that it's a sort of thing where some people might have been really upset at being tricked, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a little bit of that here. And you have to think about early 90s movies too, right? Like we're right in the middle of Basic Instinct, and Fatal Attraction has happened like a few years before that. Like there's a lot of like erotic thrillers that are in the market right now.
Right.
And this is a thriller. It's like a noir, but it does something different from like what Basic Instinct is trying to do and stuff,
But I would argue also, Greg, and I'm sorry, I'm going deep already, so you can edit this out and put it in later, because I'll forget.
Yeah.
The other way it's transgressive is, if you stay through the movie, you've got to deal with the fact that this straight guy, Stephen Ray, is still in love with Bill.
Absolutely.
And they're still kissing. I noticed in this third viewing, they never have full-on sex. Like the times after the reveal when they're in bed together, he's on top of the covers and she's under the cover. For the most part.
Right.
And so you're supposed to kind of, guess from that, okay, they didn't really go all the way. But they go some of the way before the reveal. The transgressive part is, if you've got this idea of what love is, and it's between a guy and a gal, and then suddenly you realize he's like this emotional, kind of sensitive guy who cares. That's the whole, that's one of the major premises, is he actually cares, even though he's in a situation where you're supposed to be ruthless. He cares, and that doesn't stop when suddenly what he thought was true was no longer true. He cares through it, and it challenges the viewer to be like, I really like them together because they have this flirtatious, fun thing going on. And then I still want them to be together because they're the good guys. So to speak, And so what's transgressive is it really makes you, I don't know, maybe there's some straight guys who are like, okay, man, they got feelings too. And they're romantic. And, the queers or the gays or whatever they might have said. Sorry, I don't mean to stereotype straight guys. But it's, I find that quite transgressive.
Let me say a quick word about Forrest Whitaker in this movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that I knew Forrest Whitaker was in the movie. And so when he shows up, I'm like, wait, hold up. I think that's Forrest Whitaker. But then he says something and it makes me think maybe it's not Forrest Whitaker, because he has one of the craziest accents I've ever heard in a movie. It's like Irish, kinda, but kinda English, but kinda just American. I don't know. I don't know what this accent is. So I was kind of like IMDbing through the first like 10 minutes of the movie, just making sure that I saw what I thought I saw, which was Forrest Whitaker. But Ricardo, this brings me to our first top 5 of the year. I have a list right here of the top 5 Forrest Whitaker accents from movies.
Whoa. I didn't realize. Okay. Wow, this is great. What are the top 5 accents of Forrest Whitaker in movies?
Okay, I have an honorable mention to start. Forrest Whitaker was a voice in Where the Wild Things Are. Do you remember that movie?
I haven't seen it.
But you know the book, right? There's like a little boy dressed up like a devil, and he goes to like an island of monsters and stuff.
Right.
Forrest Whitaker was one of the monsters.
Nice.
I don't remember if he had like an egregious accent, but I made it an honorable mention because it was a Forrest Whitaker monster. Okay, number 5. Here we go.
Yeah.
Top 5 Forrest Whitaker accents. His accent from The Last King of Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Idi Amin, where he's like doing those big speeches. I just remember going into the Oscars and hearing like those bombastic speeches all the time. He won an Oscar for that role.
That's correct. He did. Idi Amin did. I mean, Forrest Whitaker did.
Idi Amin.
He was so realistic. Greg, I haven't seen that movie.
I do not think Idi Amin has won any Oscars so far.
No, not even honorary.
Okay, number 4. His accent from Black Panther. Black Panther. He was.
Oh, was he in Black Panther?
Yeah, he was. He was like a priest in Black Panther. He was like a.
No wonder I don't remember.
Like a spiritual person in Black Panther.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, number 3, Forrest Whitaker accent. Did you ever see the movie Arrival with the aliens?
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, what was his accent in that movie?
I don't remember him in that movie.
It was a little strange.
Wow. That's number 3 of your movies?
That was number 3. I still have 2 more above that. The number 2 Forrest Whitaker accent is from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, where he basically sounds like he drank a milkshake made of asphalt.
Oh.
He sounds like this. Like that's pretty much the accent through the entire movie.
But it's him somehow.
It's still Forrest Whitaker. Like he's still bringing it. He just sounds like he's scratched his throat.
Is that an animated thing or live action movie?
It's not. It's live action actually. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story was a live action Star Wars movie. And then finally, the number 1 Forrest Whitaker accent. Are you ready for this? It comes from his portrayal in Battlefield Earth alongside John Travolta.
That's great, Greg. I am not a good co-host for you on this. I have no idea. I've heard of Battlefield Earth. It's like one of the best movies ever made, or worst movies, or right? It's like panned critically.
It's an odd movie. To be fair, Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. This is no like slight on Forrest Whitaker's ability. He is phenomenal. No. I remember watching Ghost Dog, the Jim Jarmusch movie that he did back in the 2000s sometime. He is incredible in that movie. Forrest Whitaker's great.
So what is he British? Is he American? Is he Irish? Is he Scottish?
He's American, I think. But he's an American who tries. Not unlike, and it sounds like I'm comparing these two people, but not unlike Nicolas Cage, which I'm not saying that Forrest Whitaker is like Nicolas Cage, but Forrest Whitaker makes choices for his characters the way that Nicolas Cage makes choices for his characters. And sometimes those choices pay off really well, and sometimes those choices kind of come off really odd. And for Forrest Whitaker, it's accent work. Like some of his accents that he chooses to do just kind of sound odd, I think.
It's a good accent. Then I'll do it.
I'll do it if I can sound like this. What is the best scene from the movie The Crying Game?
Best scene?
Mm-hmm.
Well, do I get a list of 3 runners?
Oh, how many do you want?
It's a 3-way tie for first place.
Okay. Hit me.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is, these aren't in any order, is when Forrest Whitaker's character Jody is telling Stephen Ray's character Fergus the story about the scorpion and the frog.
2 types, Fergus. The scorpion and the frog. Ever heard of them? A scorpion wants to cross the river, but he can't swim. Goes to a frog who can and asks for a ride. Frog says, I'll give you a ride on my back. You'll go and sting me. Scorpion replies, it would not be in my interest to sting you, since as I'll be on your back, we both would drown. Frog thinks about his logic for a while and accepts the deal. Takes the scorpion on his back, braves the waters, halfway over feels a burning spear in his side, and realizes the scorpion has stung him after all. And as they both sink beneath the waves, a frog cries out, why did you sting me, Mr. Scorpion? For now we both will drown. Scorpion replies, I can't help it. It's in my nature.
That fable.
Yeah.
That fable about the scorpion who wants to cross the river and asks the frog for a ride on his back. And the frog says, no, Mr. Scorpion. Oh, and there's Forrest Whitaker doing accents.
Yeah, there it is. It's like Forrest Whitaker is here with us right now.
Mr. Scorpion, if I give you a ride, you will sting me and I shall die. So the scorpion jumps on the frog's back and the frog is bravely crossing the river. And then he feels this burning sensation, this stab in his side. And sure enough, the scorpion has stung him. And the frog says, Mr. Scorpion, why did you sting me? Now we shall both die. And he literally says it like that. And the scorpion says, I can't help it. It's in my nature.
It's in my nature.
And that is, I think, it's a profound little story. It's a fable about how you can't sometimes help yourself, even when you know it's going to hurt others and yourself, because you have this proclivity towards something. And I know, Greg, from the look on your face, that you know what I'm talking about in your life. And I certainly have it in my life. That's probably one of my top 3 favorite scenes, because it sets up the whole premise of the movie. Because I don't think the movie's about gender fluidity. I don't think the movie's about the IRA. I think it's about character, good or evil. Are we scorpions or are we frogs?
Can you choose your destiny? Yeah.
Well, no, you don't choose your destiny. You have a nature that you play out. I mean, and how you get through your fate, I'll call it, because Stephen Ray is a gentle, kind-hearted, brave his character is he's like a knight in shining armor in a weird way, because he cares about people, but he's into this situation, the troubles where you can't win. The only people who might win are the ruthless ones. But his nature carries him through. That's one of my favorite scenes of the movie. How about you?
My favorite scene is when Miranda Richardson returns to the movie, when Jude comes back into Fergus's life.
We had a court-martial in your absence. They wanted to put a bullet through your head. I pleaded for clemency. Said we should find out what happened first. So what did happen?
He ran. I couldn't shoot him in the back. I tried to catch him. He made it to the road and got hit by a Saracen.
But you know what the thing is, Fergus?
No, what is the thing?
You vanished quite effectively. Became Mr. Nobody. You've no idea how useful that could be.
What do you mean?
We've got some plans here. And we'll need a Mr. Nobody to execute them.
No way, Jude. I'm out.
You're never out, Fergus.
Because I think at that point of the movie, I was just kind of like, yeah, something's going to need to happen here, because I'm not sure if I'm sold on like watching the rest of this movie just kind of be a melodrama between Fergus and Dill.
Right.
And when Jude comes back into the picture and injects chaos into the rest of the movie,
Right.
that like I sat up in my seat a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, something's happening. Something big is happening. And so yeah, and that scene where she comes back, it's just so like it's such a noir, right? It's such like a femme fatale coming into the picture, you know, and the use of shadow and light, and you know, you don't know what her motivation is, and you don't know how she's going to get Fergus back into this world of violence and revenge. And it's just great. I love that scene where she returned.
He goes home and turns on the light in his apartment, and there she is sitting in an armchair in the corner with dark hair. Hello. You know? Yeah. And suddenly his problems are way bigger than
right. And everything is a weapon in that scene, right? So like sex is a weapon, and their relationship is a weapon, and like, you know, she's asking him to be a weapon again. And
totally.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that, among other things, is she brings chaos, but she also brings a sort of reckoning to him. It's like, who am I going to be? You know, I thought I could be this guy who, you know, falls in love with the girlfriend of the man I almost killed. But now I have to go back to the IRA stuff. But now I'm a chivalrous guy because I don't want anything to happen to Dill, and she's being threatened. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I do love her, and I do care about right and wrong. And
right. So, what's your best performance from the movie? I think I've spoiled mine. I love everything Miranda Richardson is doing. So that's pretty much mine. But yeah, what's your best performance?
My favorite performance was Stephen Ray. I just found him so soulful,
interesting,
and haunted, and kind of lovely, actually. You know, one of my favorite things in movies and shows is handsome, tortured men, you know, who have like just kind of are like struggling, or like handsome men crying, and Stephen Ray gets this look on his face sometimes where he just like is pained, and you know, and I just kind of adore that look. I'll be honest. The only example I can think of as a terrible example is Warren Beatty in the movie Reds.
Okay.
When Diane Keaton's character leaves and he's sitting on the stairs and he just starts to cry, and he's not a very good crier, but he's so damn good looking that I just haven't forgotten that scene. And so I guess it's just maybe men being vulnerable, you know?
Yeah.
Hunky men being vulnerable.
I will say this about Stephen Ray. He has those deep eyes, you know? There are some people that you look into their eyes and you're like, wow, there's a lot going on in there. And Stephen Ray's one of those actors. Like, he can really like pull you in with whatever he's doing with his eyes, and like you kind of get lost in them. They're like pools, kind of. And
right.
Yeah, he's really
good. Absolutely. So he'd be my favorite performance. And of course, I loved Jay Davidson. I mean, I don't know if Jay Davidson in real life was transgender. I'm going to assume yes. So I'll say she. She's such a natural. I mean, she never really acted before. I think she was spotted. I read about this. She was spotted at some Derek Jarman movie premiere or something movie premiere. And Derek Jarman kind of brought her to Neil Jordan because Neil Jordan was having trouble casting the part.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have it be someone believable to the audience and the character of Stephen Ray's character, or it's going to seem silly, right?
Yeah.
Davidson was just like totally it.
Do anything for me. Anything. No way.
You said anything, Dill?
A girl has to draw the line somewhere.
I want to change you to a man.
Why?
It's a secret.
Would you like me better that way, Jimmy?
Yes.
Then you wouldn't leave me?
No.
You promise?
I promise.
Go on then.
But sometimes it feels a bit acty, you know, like...
It feels a bit acty. It feels like an amateur. Yeah, a little bit. Which isn't to say not talented. I mean, I think you're right. I think she does an amazing job in this role. But, like, I don't know. There's also like, if you look at her IMDb page, like there's only 3 movies on there or something.
Right.
Like a very short career, and was nominated for an Oscar. Spoilers for our next segment. Was nominated for an Oscar right out of the blocks with her debut movie. So it's like, it's kind of hard to live up to that.
Anyway, Stephen
Ricardo,
Ray.
I have some stats about the movie The Crying Game.
Let's hear it.
The Crying Game opened on November 25th, 1992.
Nice.
Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy.
Oh.
Enjoy this with your Thanksgiving dinner. This day, November 25th, 1992, this day in 90210 history. On this day in 90210, we have arrived at season 3, episode 15, entitled The Kindness of Strangers. Were you ever a 90210 person, Ricardo? Or was that?
No, I was not. I know that there was Kimberly who started a fire.
Yes, we dealt with that last season. That was one of our. That was one of our.
And then that actress who turned out to be kind of Shannon Doherty. No.
Yes, Shannon Doherty. She played Brenda. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was sort of a difficult person in real life, or had some trouble.
Yeah, but she's better now. So The Kindness of Strangers, the episode recap says Brandon, who was Brenda's twin brother on the show. Brandon brings a homeless man home for Thanksgiving dinner. Oh. Dylan celebrates the holiday with his father, and Steve spends the day with his mother.
Wow.
Captivating television.
Is this a regular feature of Going on 30 that's happening on 90210?
It is. Sometimes they're boring episodes like this one, and then sometimes they're, on fire episodes like the one that you mentioned before.
So Brendan and Branda? No, see? Brenda and Brandon.
Yes.
That's a bad naming of twins. I mean, I just showed you why without meaning to. Brenda and Brendan. Brenda and Brandon. That's ridiculous. That's like, these are my 2 twin sons, Brett and Brent.
Oh no.
Oh well. That's all right.
Oh man.
Was that the show with Luke Perry on it?
Yes, Luke Perry was Dylan. That was the guy who was celebrating the holiday with his father, Dylan.
And there was another hunky young gentleman on the show. The other one.
Yeah, probably Steve.
Who's the actor?
He spends the day with his mother. His name was Ian Ziering.
No, that's not him.
Or maybe you're thinking of David, played by Brian Austin Green.
I like Brian Austin Green, but no, maybe it's a different show. Okay, so
The Crying Game had a domestic gross of $63 million, which isn't bad. Yeah. So I always tell Betsy, like a blockbuster movie at this time would have made $100 million probably. Mm-hmm. So 63 million is not bad for an independent movie. Yeah. It was the number 20 grossing movie of 1992.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. It is the number 1,399th top grossing movie of all time.
Wow.
And this is a game that Betsy and I play at this point, Ricardo. Yeah. So what I do is I tell you what movies this movie came between on the list of top grossing movies of all time. Yeah. And then you tell me which of these movies you would like to flirt with, which means that's a movie that you would watch one time and then never watch again. Which of these movies would you marry, which is a movie that you would watch over and over again? And which is a movie that you would kill, which is a movie that you probably would never want to see ever again.
Oh, this is fun. What if I haven't seen the movie though?
Well, you just base it on the title. Yeah, you just base it on the title.
Go ahead.
So this is the 1,399th top grossing movie, and it comes between Black Mass, which is the Johnny Depp movie where he plays Whitey Bulger.
Oh, right.
And London Has Fallen, which is the Gerard Butler movie where there's like, I think there's a terrorist situation and Gerard Butler has to like shoot people.
That all is so unique. I mean, that could be any one of 17 movies.
So you get The Crying Game, Black Mass, and London Has Fallen, Flirt, Marry, Kill.
I would marry The Crying Game.
Okay.
For Stephen Ray.
Uh-huh.
I would flirt with London Has Fallen because of Gerard Butler. And I would kill Black Mass because it's about Whitey Bulger. There you go.
I am with you, except I switched The Crying Game. I would flirt with The Crying Game and marry London Has Fallen.
Okay, good.
The Crying Game has a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's good.
So people love this movie. You know who else loves this movie?
Ooh.
Roger Ebert. In his review for the movie, he says this: reasons remain to watch this movie. It's not a great opening line.
Oh.
There are many reasons to watch a movie. Reasons remain to watch this movie. The development of Fergus and the fine performances, most notably Whittaker and Richardson, who plays her character with just the right number of screws loose.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. What other fun status facts do you have?
So Roger gave it a 4 out of 4. We always try to balance Roger because he's a man. We love Roger, but he is a male voice. So we always try to balance Roger with a female critic at the time. And this review comes from Janet Maslin.
Oh, yeah.
Who was at the New York Times. She says the success of a film as offbeat as The Crying Game represents Hollywood's version of a grassroots phenomenon, a cleverly marketed film that has succeeded chiefly because it's so good.
Wow. See, all right, Janet.
Yeah. Janet's a good writer. Okay, now, Ricardo, here's where we get to how did the movie do at the Oscars? It had one win at the Oscar. What was that win, Ricardo?
It was for Best Original Screenplay by Neil Jordan.
That's correct.
Not adapted, original.
That's right. Did you also know that in addition to being nominated for Best Picture, it was also nominated for 4 other awards that it did not win? Do you think that you can name what those awards would be?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, okay.
So there's Best Picture.
Uh-huh.
There's Best Director, Neil Jordan.
Yes.
Best Actor, Stephen Ray.
Yes.
There's Best Supporting Actor, Jay Davidson.
Uh-huh.
There's Best Screenplay.
Uh-huh. And one more that it was nominated for.
Is it Best Supporting Actress Miranda Richardson?
No, although
Best Editing. Best Editing.
That's right. Best Film Editing.
Yes. Miranda was robbed.
She was robbed. She was great in this movie.
It's funny the way things go. Don't you find that, Jimmy? Never the way you expected.
I'm sorry.
You mean that? Don't go! Say something! Jesus.
Okay, now, Ricardo, let's talk about the lasting legacy of this film. And I wrote LGBT plus representation in movies. So I don't know, like I always, and we've talked about this a little bit already, but I kind of want to go into it a little bit more, I think, because this movie always stood out to me as like I don't know, it was like a movie that had a notorious reputation. Everybody kind of had a sense of The Crying Game. And I say that and I put this movie in the same place that I would put like a Brokeback Mountain, for instance, where it's like, if you say the title of the movie, people instantly kind of think of what they think the movie is.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of going forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It'd feel like someone saying, oh, that's a Brokeback Mountain situation right there.
Yeah. And I think The Crying Game is kind of in that world too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the movie has a reputation before you even see the movie. I guess that's what I'm wondering.
Oh.
Is that a good thing?
I think reputation. What did Oscar Wilde say? The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. So I would say that that reputation probably was a good thing. I think it I can't imagine it didn't contribute to its success. I think about Star Wars. I guess that's a really bad example, but
Okay.
I didn't see Star Wars for like a year and a half. We talked about this on the show, and I was disappointed when I saw it because there was so much hype. It's amazing. I've seen it 7 times. I went and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's good. Wow, that's interesting." And I don't know. I think I was just set up for so much that if people go to see the Crying Game and they're like, "There's a big reveal. Oh my god! Oh my god!"
Mhm.
Now, granted, I think it gives the shock it should if you're not expecting it. But if you're already expecting it, then I think it does sort of mess with the movie. It maybe depletes your enjoyment of it.
Okay, so just thinking about sort of gay cinema in general. So like, because we've had a conversation about this way back in the archives of Popping Collars, where we talked about sort of gay romance stories. I think it was around the time that like Call Me by Your Name came out, was when we had that conversation. And I guess my question is it in the nature of queer cinema to be shocking? So the reason that I say that is because like this movie has like what I think we would call a shocking reveal. I don't know. There's something about sexual discovery that has like a shocking nature to it. Like,
well, shocking. I mean, the word I liked that you used was transgressive. Earlier, shocking. Yeah, shocking if you're straight and expecting something different. So here's the thing. I actually don't think of The Crying Game as a gay movie.
Oh, interesting.
I really don't. I think of it as a love story. And I know, obviously, I know the big reveal and all that, but and I certainly know my feelings when I saw it and how it felt in a weird way, like not a weird way, and it felt affirming. I will say that well, this is a tangent, but there was a trope back when that every gay man's fantasy is a straight man who falls in love with him.
Okay.
And so there's a way in which this movie, I will confess to having had some of that in my life, that kind of longing, because you go around closeted all the time and have crushes on all these guys who are dating girls. And so then in some way, at some level, at least back then, that was my ideal, that the guy I have the crush on suddenly realizes that it's me who's, the one for him. And this movie in that odd way fulfills that fantasy. But I don't think of it as a gay movie. I think of like My Beautiful Laundrette as a gay movie.
Right.
And Brokeback Mountain and Call Me by Your Name and, Boys in the Band. But I don't know. I think of this as a thriller and a romance. But to answer your question, was are gay movies? I think you said, are gay movies kind of inherently shocking? Maybe that's not a good. I would say probably yes. And I would say even to this day, there's still a little, I'll call it titillating, maybe even for straight people.
Like a John Waters film, for instance, right? Like he wants to elicit a specific emotion from you by putting something shocking on film to make you react in some kind of way, right? And I think that that's related to, I don't know, something like, I want to challenge like the way that you're blindly moving through the world, expecting that every movie is going to be like a rom-com, and this isn't. It's going to be something else, and it's going to record scratch you a little bit here.
I would call the John Waters movies I have seen, I definitely would call transgressive. I would also say some of them are hard to watch.
Yeah.
And you have to meet them with a certain level of armor, I think. And so to me, they're not that interesting because they're not profound. Sorry, John Waters, who I met once, by the way. I met him once. He was definitely in character, but it was in a cafeteria line.
Oh, there you go.
I guess I'm resistant. I personally don't think of it as queer because I don't want to slot it that way because I think it's actually more profound than that. It's about how you make attachments and connections with other people and even fall in love with them. And it can have very, it can, obviously he's attracted to her because she's beautiful. And so that is surface level, but also he's feeling guilt about her boyfriend dying and wants to care about her and follow through on his promise to check in on her. But when the reveal happens, he's realizing he's got feelings that transcend the superficial. And that, I think, is the more profound message of the movie, is who we are and who we love and how we make our way through the world. There is something that's in our nature that's going to make us act certain ways, but that kindness or that, his goodness can transcend all that superficial. This is what you're supposed to love and who you're supposed to care about. And I think that's what makes this movie profound to me. And I don't hear anyone else talking about that, so maybe I'm just yakking in the wind here, but I don't know if Neil Jordan even meant that to be the case, but I don't care because I think it's there. Yes, it's a queer cinema signpost of the times, but I think we, like, calling someone a woman author or a female author or a woman's author or something can belittle that situation as well. I think that calling this a queer movie misses a lot of the nuance.
Yeah. Who do you think this movie's for? Like when you think about like who this movie's marketed to and stuff like what's the intended audience of this movie?
Is this a question that you ask for all the movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is I've got a stumped. That's a bit of a stumper. Who would? I guess it is for LGBTQ plus people back then, who didn't have all those letters at the time. I think it was just gay and lesbian or LGBT or something. But it's definitely for that community. But I think it's also for people who, to me, really like a good story that has kind of intrigue.
Yeah, that last one that you said, that's what I think. I think this movie is for cinephiles. I think this movie is for people that like stories and like movies. Like, I mean, because it's got so much. It's got noir elements. It's got thriller elements. It's got love and sex and violence. And I mean, it's just got all of this stuff. Like,
romance,
there's a reason.
Politics.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why, like, it was the number 20 grossing movie of 1992. Like, it pulls in a wider net than you would actually think. So
I have a statistic for you, Greg.
Oh.
The British Film Institute in 1999 named it the 26th greatest British film of all time.
Whoa. What did it come ahead of? What was it ahead of? What was number 20?
Oh, Greg, I don't have that handy. I didn't do that much. Oh, you want to do the flirt with, marry, and kill?
No. I always like lists because I always want to know whenever something shows up as like number 25. I always want to know, like, what was number 26?
This is actually pretty interesting, Greg. Now, remember, this is 1999, so it's fresh in people's minds. It probably has fallen lower. But in 1999, the British Film Institute, made up, I suppose, of critics or I don't know who, British people. Yeah. The Crying Game was number 26. Number 25, and again, which one would you flirt with? Which would you marry? Which would you kill? 25 was The Full Monty.
Okay.
1997. Right. And 27 was Dr. Zhivago, David Lean.
Oh, okay. This is easy for me. Yeah, I would flirt with The Crying Game again, marry The Full Monty, kill Dr. Zhivago.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Why did you not like Dr. Zhivago?
I'm not the biggest Dr. Zhivago fan, but also The Full Monty is a rewatchable for me. I could watch that movie over and over again.
Oh,
that was great. Yeah.
You know what? I don't think I've seen The Full Monty.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to kill any of them.
Oh,
I guess I don't. Marry means you'd watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good Lord. I don't think I could watch Dr. Zhivago that many more times, but I sure love it. I'd probably have to marry The Crying Game again and flirt with Dr. Zhivago, but I want to kill The Full Monty.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Maybe we'll just retire. We'll just send The Full Monty to like a retirement community.
That's right. I got to see it once though. I think Dr. Zhivago's a great movie. Go ahead.
What is your rating for this movie out of 5?
5.
5 out of 5.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
And that doesn't, and I don't, well, I don't know. It just, to me, it just has so many different things going on. And I get what you said earlier. I believe you said something like it felt a little loose or like
Yeah.
meandering, what was
Mhm.
going on. I found it extremely satisfying around love and identity and the thriller aspect. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is 5 like a super masterpiece? Like only 3 movies should get that?
No, I mean, I mean, obviously, nobody cares about that.
No, Greg, come on.
Anything can be a 5. I think Liz always gives movies a 5. Like it's so it's fine. But but no, I usually reserve a 5 for like, is this like, if I were to open a movie Hall of Fame, would this movie go in it?
4.5. I'll give it a 4.5.
Okay. All right. 4.5. I originally gave this movie a 2 out of 5. Not because I think it's bad. It's not a bad movie. It's actually a really good movie. It just feels, and you've put your finger on this, like it's like 3 movies in one movie. And to me, that feels a little unfocused. Like it's hard. It was hard for me to understand like what it was that Neil Jordan wanted me to focus on with this movie. And so, but because of our conversation, I have bumped up the score to 2.5. I'm giving it a 2.5.
That's all I get is a half point after I've just poured my heart out in the last hour and 20 minutes, Greg.
You have made me like the movie more. Thank you, Ricardo.
Hard to please. Well, that's good because you're not a flibberty gibbet. You're not. Oh, you're right.
Okay. Really quickly, one last question. Yeah. Why do you think the Academy nominated this movie?
Because it's great. And I think probably they thought they were being transgressive when they nominated it.
I think so. I think it was like, ooh, what a compelling movie that people are going to talk about, and they're going to tune into our Oscar show to see if it actually wins. And so, yeah, I think that it was, I think what is it? Like the conversation. I almost said controversy. I don't think it's a controversial movie, but I think the conversation around the movie like was attractive to the Academy, and they wanted that conversation at their big television awards show.
Right. I imagine if whoever was the host for the Oscars that year, Billy Crystal or someone, probably did some gag about the Crying Game in their opening number.
Yep. I would undoubtedly say yes. And if that did happen, maybe I will play a clip of it at this moment on the show, depending on how gross it is.
I have to tell you, I'm so glad the entrance is over because I've been under such pressure, as you can imagine. Everyone's been talking about, how's he coming out? How's he coming out? I know he's coming out. He's coming out like this. Everybody wanted me to come out like them because they thought it was good luck. A few good men said, come out like a Marine, Get like Jack in a tight close-up. You can't handle the truth. Then people said, come out like Clint. And then the Crying Game said, just come out. So I'm here. So here we are. How are you? Actually, the most nervous people in the audience have got to be the producers of the Crying Game, who are looking at me now and going, don't say a word. I'll be good for a while. I will not reveal the secret of that great movie, but I have to say, for me, that big scene proved one thing. White men can jump.
Okay.
Greg, this was really fun.
Hey, thanks, Ricardo. Do you want to make your voice heard? Blah, 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 blah. Do you want to make your voice heard? Email us at poppingcollarspodcast@gmail.com with your thoughts, and maybe we will read them on the show. Next up, Betsy is going to be back, and Tom Cruise is going to be back because we're going to be talking about the movie A Few Good Men.
That's a good movie.
By Rob Reiner. That is a good movie. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you for recognizing that Tom Cruise made a good movie. Betsy refuses to acknowledge that fact.
There are good movies that Tom Cruise is in, and you probably have to give him some credit for them. But boy, he's like the anti
Stephen Ray.
He's the anti Stephen Ray. If I saw Tom Cruise crying, I would be like, good.
You don't get lost in his eyes. You don't think that he has deep pool eyes.
Oh God, Tom Cruise's eyes are dead.
Ricardo, thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
to visit me on Going on 30.
Oh,
You're great.
Going on 30 was fun. But don't you do the thing at the end? Remember to and remember
We don't do that on this show.
Why not?
Because I don't know. Because we just always say good night and good luck or something. We just sign off. We sign off in a very boring way. But would you like to?
Yeah, because it's always Betsy and Liz's thing.
Yeah.
Neither of them are here. And now I get to can I do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Ricardo, thank you for coming to visit. We will see you next time. And
remember, keep those collars popped.
Oh, you did it. That's awesome.
Yes. Once. All right.